Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, and it's time for another division preview. Today we're talking about the NFC West. I'm Alex, and I'll be your guide through this division as we get ready for the 2025 NFL season. And boy, this division is a doozy. Another division that feels like, realistically, any four of these teams could go out and win the division. I think we got four competitive teams here. It just, I think, depends on which team becomes the one that stands out above the rest. I think that it's a very evenly matched division. It's going to be close, but who comes out on top? There's only one way to find out, and that's to play the football game. So let's go ahead and talk about it. Now, before we get into it, I do want to cover the scheduling for this division and who's going to be playing who, because it's important, because each division plays the majority of the same opponents, but there are three games that they don't share. So the entire division gets to play their 6 division games. They all play the NFC South. They all play the AFC South. They happen to draw both South divisions in the rotation this year. And then let's take the Los Angeles Rams, winners of the NFC West last season. Let's take them, for example. They will be playing at home against the Detroit Lions from the NFC North, who also finished first in their division. They'll also be playing on the road against the Philadelphia Eagles and the Baltimore Ravens, winners of the NFC East and the AFC North, respectively. So wherever they finish in division placement, they just take whoever finished 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st, whoever in some of these other divisions, and you play them. So that's how they come up with the schedule for the NFC West. So let's go ahead and get into it. Welcome back, the San Francisco 49ers, to the conversation in the NFC West. For yet another season, it feels like. You either get one of two Niners teams in the last half decade or so, really since Kyle Shanahan has taken over. Either the team is healthy and they're playoff contenders and primed to surprise people and go on a deep playoff run for no reason, or they get really injured and stink. And so they get good draft picks and therefore bolster said team for future playoff runs. It's really weird how it works like that. And this team is still pretty good. They got Brock Purdy, who isn't, the best quarterback in the league, but he doesn't need to be. He's doing just a fine job in the role that he's at right now. Christian McCaffrey, if he can stay healthy this season, he is going to be a lethal weapon for this Niners team. The biggest departure, of course, being Deebo Samuel, and that's the big task for this Niners offense. How do they respond by losing guys like Deebo Samuel and replace them with Jawan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall instead? I think the running game is pretty strong. They just added Brian Robinson Jr., hopefully a guy who can stay healthy, because that running game was really battered. So any guy on that San Francisco running staff just needs to stay healthy, because holy cow, they were grasping at straws last year at the end of the year. And then defensively, they still have Nick Bosa. Fred Warner got hurt a little bit. He'll be back. They signed Amador Lenore. They bring in Jason Pinnock. Devondre Campbell's still there. I think they've got some good pieces here. It all depends on if this team stays healthy. That is the number one priority for the Niners this season, on if they will go far. And so I'm going to act as if they are healthy this season, and I think that this is a good roster that can put together a good season. I think they maybe stumble at the gate against Seattle, get surprised by the Seahawks on the road, but a nice win against the Saints and Cardinals puts them in position against Jacksonville. They take that, and then you got a Thursday night game on the road against the Rams. To get that game, I think they have a little bit of stretch in the middle of the season where they're going to struggle a little bit, but it looks like I think their schedule softens up real nicely for the end of the season. They get to play 3 primetime games against teams who finished under 500 last season, and the Panthers, Colts, and Bears. I think that they are primed to have a really nice back half of the schedule, as they have the middle of the schedule is the toughest part, with games against Tampa and Houston and the Rams. But I think the schedule with the Niners playing a 4th place schedule, the Browns, they get the Bears, and they get, who's the last one, the Giants. Those are 3 games that they can easily win. So I think that the Niners end up settling out closer to their ceiling because of the fact of the softer schedule, I think they go 11-6 this season. But again, the floor is 6-11. That's what they finished last season. Again, if injuries pile up or the team just doesn't recover from the loss of Deebo Samuel offensively, 6-11. But I am going to bank on the idea that they're going to stay healthy. And I got 11 wins for the Niners this year. Up next, the reigning division champs, the Los Angeles Rams, a team that, after all the injury struggles they had early last season, benefited from an early bye to get healthy, and it propelled them to a strong finish that allowed them to win the NFC West and win a playoff game against the Minnesota Vikings and get pretty close to taking down the eventual Super Bowl champions. They're returning a pretty similar squad this year. Sean McVay, of course, still leading the charge. This could be Matthew Stafford's swan song. We don't know, but it feels like maybe this will be the last year that Matthew Stafford plays in the NFL. So they got to make it count. I love the addition of Davante Adams. I think that 1-2 punch with Puka Nacua and Davante Adams is going to be lethal in the passing game if they can get separation. Kyron Williams has grown into a really nice back for the Rams here. Tyler Higbee, hopefully he's healthy for a good portion of the year. Really wasn't last year. Came in towards the end of the year. And then Jared Verse, a great rookie season. I think that if he can take another step, he can be a truly elite threat in the linebacking core. And I think the secondary is still all right. It's nothing elite in my opinion, but I still think that Kobe Durant and Nikella Witherspoon can do a good job trying to lock up the receivers that they have as much as they can. But I think that if the offense can click and outscore their opponents, I think that this team's going to win a lot of football games. And, well, I think they're going to win a lot of football games this year. I think they get off to a hot start, 4-0. I think they actually get revenge on the Eagles week 3 and beat them in their building. Because they were pretty close to doing so, and then the snow hit, and the wheels came off the bus a little bit, and they could not hang on. I think they suffer their first loss at home against the Niners on Thursday night. They got to go to Baltimore, which is a tough match. But I like this team to win 11 games. I think they have a weird loss against the Panthers, but outside of that, it's kind of what you kind of expect a little bit. I think that 3-3 in division may not be exactly what Rams fans want out of the team, but the rest of the schedule outside of that looks pretty nice, especially when you got the two South divisions to play against, which across the board for the division is going to be a really nice break in the schedule, which is, I think, another reason why I think this team, or this division as a whole, could be pretty good this season from a pure record standpoint, because their schedules are pretty soft. But, yeah, they get to go to London to play the Jags. They got 2 primetime games towards the end of the year, both on the road, Thursday night against the Seahawks and Monday night against the Falcons. I think this team goes 11-6. They can get to 12-5. But if a couple injuries come up, or if Matthew Stafford shows the visible regression signs, I think maybe they drop under 500. But as it stands right now, I'm still pretty confident in the team to play well. I have the LA Rams finishing with 11 wins in 2025. Next up, the Arizona Cardinals, a team that really flew under the radar last year. It's weird. I thought they were going to be a really bad football team last year. I'm not going to lie. And they went out and they won 8 games. But I kind of forget at times they actually did win 8 games, because it just felt like they were under the radar and kind of away from the public perception in the grand scheme of things a lot last season. So I totally forgot that they did get to 8 wins. And looking at it, I think that there's still some pieces here. Of course, the biggest addition being Josh Sweat to bolster that linebacking core. I really like that move. Calais Campbell's back in Arizona. The big question, again, lies on Kyler Murray, as it has for the last 3 years. Can Kyler Murray take that next step to be a top 10 quarterback? He's about an average quarterback right now, I'd probably say, but he has his moments of good and his moments of bad. I think if he can limit the mistakes and limit the turnover-worthy plays, I think that the team can maybe overperform a little bit. But I think the connection with him and Marvin Harrison Jr. will probably be Interesting to see how that develops in year 2. Budda Baker still being an anchor in the secondary and a massive defensive leader. Again, there are a couple nice pieces here. I don't know if they can put them all together for a playoff run. That, I think, is where Jonathan Gannon comes into play. And can he get playoffs out of this roster? Which is a little bit tough, but we'll see. I personally don't see it happening. I have them at 8-9. I think they have a couple nice wins. I think that they actually do pretty well in divisional play. I think they go 4-2, sweeping the Seahawks and splitting with the Rams and Niners. But I think that there's a late season skid after a nice start against some tougher teams. LA, Houston, Atlanta, Cincinnati. That's a bit of a tough stretch. And Tampa Bay. I think that they have a really tough end of the season. Those last 6 games are against teams who were at least competent last year. I think all of them were over 500 last year. If not, the only team missing off that list would be Atlanta, and they were 8-9. So the schedule toughens up towards the end of the year. I think that they can get a couple surprising wins and upset bids against Tampa, against Green Bay. But they might have a couple puzzling losses, maybe against the Cowboys or the Panthers or the Titans. So I think if they can consistently beat the teams they should early in the season, they can put themselves in a good position when that last third of the schedule kicks in. And maybe they get up to 10 wins this season. And honestly, that might put them in the playoffs at that point. But if things really go south and they can't get the offense to gel the way that they would want, probably go down to 5 wins and lose a couple more games that you could probably win. But as it stands right now, I have the Arizona Cardinals sitting at 8-9 in 2025. And finally, the Seattle Seahawks, who had a very surprising offseason in the sense that there's a lot of roster turnover in the most important positions. Quarterback, wide receiver, at least the sexiest positions, the positions that a lot of the fans out there really, really care about. So I think it's just really interesting to see that after going 10-7 last season, there are a lot of major changes with the Seahawks this year. Starting with Sam Darnold at quarterback. They get rid of Geno Smith. He goes to Vegas to go play quarterback for the Raiders. Their running back core stays the same with Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, which is a good thing. Those two guys are pretty good. I actually really like that running back room. But what happened with the receiver room? DK Metcalf traded to the Steelers. And then Tyler Lockett picked up by the Titans. But in return, they acquire Cooper Kupp, who left the Rams. I totally forgot to mention his departure in the Rams segment. I can't believe I forgot that, but they replaced him with Devontae Adams. Cooper Kupp comes to Seattle. And so he immediately becomes wide receiver 1. Jackson Smith and Jigba bumped up to the wide receiver 2. That's a great duo right there, in my opinion. I think that that'll be fun. I'm really interested to see how this new offense, like there's so much turnover in the offense with good players, but can they all gel together? Did Mike McDonald do a good enough job in the offseason to get these guys ready for the season? Because they still have some good pieces on the defensive side. I really like that secondary with Reek Woolen, Devin Witherspoon, Julian Love, and Kobe Bryant. Not the Laker, Kobe with a C. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens in Seattle this year. They're a bit of a boomer bust team for me. They're one of those teams where I could totally see them play really well, but I don't know if they will, per se. Yeah, for some reason, I just don't feel like this Seattle team is going to get things done by the end of the year. I don't know. I guess this is a really weird case where I have a team closer to the floor than the ceiling. Because I usually am pretty optimistic for a lot of teams. I can see the hope for Seattle. And honestly, if there's one team to really prove me wrong in the NFC for giving them a bad record, it's definitely Seattle. Because 7-10, honestly, is a bit low, even for me. But just with the way that I felt about certain things and the teams they were playing, I don't know. It felt like when I was looking at some of the teams that they should be beating and some of these losses, like Indy, New Orleans, Carolina. I was maybe getting swept by Arizona. There was some weird feeling that I feel like this team's going to be a bit inconsistent. Because I don't love their offensive line, and Sam Darnold was not great under pressure. And I guess I'm kind of more banking on Sam Darnold having a regression after the great season he had in Minnesota, but I could easily be proven wrong in that sense. I guess that's more where I just don't feel super confident in Sam Darnold to replicate some of those performances and some of those moments with the Vikings last year. But they easily could and get to 12-5. There are 4 games on here that they could totally win. New Orleans, they could totally win a game against Arizona. Carolina, Indianapolis. That's 4 wins right there. You're at 11 wins, and you're in the playoffs. So it's interesting. I don't know. It's a really weird feeling that I have. There really isn't a lot of logic in them being 7-10, in my opinion. There's a lot of just some weird gut feeling that I feel like they're going to underperform for some reason. And I think I called them to underperform last year, and they finished 10-7. So prove me again wrong, Seattle. You did it last year. I think they could totally do it again. But I guess, unfortunately, I got them at 7 wins this year. And so here we are. Final division standings. 2 teams finished with 11 wins, and the tiebreaker goes to the Los Angeles Rams after, I believe, record in common games was the tiebreaker that I got to before finding a winner. 11-6, the record for the Rams. I think they win the division via tiebreaker, obviously, because the 2 teams split their season series. Arizona at 8-9 and Seattle at 7-10. Those 2 could easily flop. Seattle could totally be second again. Seattle could totally win the division. I think any 4 of these teams could totally win this division this year. But as I have it playing out in my mock season here, or whatever you want to call it, I have the LA Rams winning the NFC West via tiebreaker and grabbing the number 4 seed in the NFC, with the 49ers nailing a wild card spot in the process at 11-6. And so that's it. The NFC West. What do you think? Did I hit the nail on the head, or was I completely off track? What do you think about Seattle winning 7 games and San Francisco at 11? Are those crazy, or am I kind of on track with what you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below. Make sure you hit the like button if you liked it. Hit the subscribe button if you really liked it. And, well, I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.